Uh, my name's Distance, and I'm here to talk about some things. This is really interesting for me, speaking at a public level like this. Typically, I'm used to speaking in a bit more like private settings, things like that, or speaking on behalf of somebody or something, and this is a bit vague for me. It's going to be really interesting. Really quickly, I'm pretty much going to talk about what my life used to be like, a degree of what happened and what my life is like now. As per many people who are speaking here today as well, I am sober. I have been for a number of years. And just really quickly, oh, thank you. Yeah. Really quickly, I've been taught, especially in my culture, that language is very important. And it's very important for me to understand my own language, my first language being English. We talk a lot about being sober, and then we talk about recovery. I've always said, sober is why I use and drink, or why I used to. Sober for me was what I couldn't live with. That's why I use and drink. I had a drinking and using solution to my living and thinking and my sober problem. Because when I was sober, I had no idea how to live life. I was ill-equipped to live life without drinking and using for a very, very long time. And when we talk about being sober, very quickly, I just want to talk a little bit about what more recovery is than just that word. I remember in a treatment facility that I attended, we talked about being sober. It's like the fella who, stops using and drinking for a few days and goes to some meetings and comes home to his mother, hey, Mom, I'm sober. And she says, yeah, so what? So's the cat. What does sober mean? So, this piece of it, is extraordinarily important for me, because on top of just not drunk, not intoxicated, not using, the word sober itself, without excess or exaggeration, showing no extreme qualities of fantasy, emotion, or prejudice, without indifference where seriousness and attention are needed, having no illusions, and facing reality in a straightforward way. That's what sober is for me. Today, I choose to live a life without drugs, without alcohol, without violence, without harsh language, without cursing, to walk softly on this earth. My elders teach me to do all these things, and so does the program that I'm a part of. But for me, just to be sober, again, is not enough. Because when all the drugs and all the alcohol have left my system, that's when I'm left with me. And again, my entire life, and this is wording from some of our literature that we use, but I have been tortured by loneliness my entire life, since I was this big. And that was long before I drank or used anything. Tortured by loneliness. I was trying to crawl out of my own skin. I was never comfortable with who I was. I had no idea who I was supposed to be. Very, very short background. I was born and raised in a very orthodox religion. My father was a minister for 25 years. If you can tell by my appearance, I am no longer a part of that orthodox religion. But in the beginning, I was told to fear God, this God idea. And so when I came into recovery, and there's many, many places that have this idea of a God within recovery, and it scared the living hell out of me. So I was born and raised religiously. I left the church. I became an agnostic, which is maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I became an atheist following that, which is, I will disprove that any God exists. I went from being an atheist to a militant atheist, which was, if you show me that book, I will burn it. And from that point, I ended up in recovery. And they told me to start looking at something, and it scared me. I am a very low bottom drug user. I came into recovery at 95 pounds, with half a pair of pants, and again, just heavily using, heavily drinking for many years. As was mentioned to the speaker before me, I came into recovery very, very young. My first time, I've been around twice now. The first time I came in, and I did a lot of work. And I figured by the end, especially when I first came in, I didn't want to get sober. I had no interest in getting sober. I didn't want to stop using all drugs and alcohol. That's not what I was interested in. What I was interested in was not living a nightmare over and over and over. It's like Nightmare on Elm Street meets Groundhog Day. There's just this recurring over and over and over, building my life up, burning it down. Burning all the bridges with family, never being able to sustain a job or friendships or relationships. Again, feeling that tortured by loneliness, being a prey to misery and depression, having a sense of uselessness. That's what I wanted a solution for. I didn't understand. Everybody else told me that I needed to be sober. I didn't understand how that would even be a solution for this. And when I came in very young, I had this idea, like, I've done so much work. I've done so much work in my recovery. So maybe I was just drinking and using to overcome feelings because I'm a sad person. And now that I'm not a sad person, I could probably drink successfully. That did not last long. So when I decided to come back this time, I had no questions left. My recovery is abstinence-based recovery. I do not use, I do not drink. And furthermore as well, I go into the more thicker definition of that idea of being sober, trying to walk softly on this earth, being conscientious, being compassionate, bringing Creator into everything that I do in the best way that I can. I'm very fortunate to be adopted into many different societies, a member of 2 different Blackfoot families, and they've taught me, and that is my culture that I practice today, and I'm very honored to be able to carry that. But this idea that I go into recovery for myself only, maybe for the first little while, but what recovery teaches me is that I have something to offer. I'm also a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. So all these things that I thought were the things that were pulling me down, the things that I could never overcome, the reason why I thought I drank and used, all of these experiences can now benefit others. That's what recovery is for me today. Bringing Creator into what I do, understanding that my past is a useful tool to be able to help others, to be able to strengthen others, to give people hope. I do not go into recovery, I do not get sober, I do not recover to keep it for myself. I have to give it away. So, anyhow, I'm going to end with this. I want to thank you all very much for being respectful and understanding and kind, and for being here today. This is adapted from a teaching that my elders gave me a long time ago. And I like to relate it to what I do in recovery and what the purpose of recovery is for me and millions of other people around the world who I know. When I'm in addiction and I'm in all of these things that I've just talked about, that feeling of uselessness, the being alone, the being in the dark, not knowing where to go or what to do, I've been in this dark tunnel for so long, surrounded by all these other people that look suspiciously like you guys, in this dark tunnel. And my whole life I've been trying to find my way out. And I'm pushing my way through all these people, trying to find some light. And I keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And I finally start to see this tiny glimpse of light at the very end of this very dark tunnel. And I work my way towards it. I arrive at this set of steps that leads up to that light, and I can see it just faintly at the end. Every step I take, that light starts to get brighter and brighter and brighter. And every step I take, I keep looking back behind me and I think, I never have to go there again. I never have to see those people that are struggling and lost again. I'm going to be free. Maybe that's the sun on the other end, at the end of the tunnel. And I'm going to be free to do whatever I want and live in the sun for the rest of my life. And I keep taking these steps and I get all the way to that last step. And it turns out that the entire time, that light at the end of the tunnel has been my Creator holding a candle. He puts it in my hand, and he says, now you have to go back in. That's what recovery is. We get that light, and we have to go back into that darkness and show other people, I found this light, follow me, and you can have it too. Thank you. Okay.